Just to give a little background on me, I was an electronics graduate from Srinidhi College. Those who are familiar with the Srinidhi College, that's a place where fun goes to die, pretty much. Then I was in a IT company for some time, did a lot of data mining, database management, all the stuff that nobody understands, but people apparently make a lot of money with it. Then one of my friend gave me an opportunity to work on drought and the crop failures on the starvation related issues. And then I took that. The reason why I took that is because when I was in 10th standard, I actually accidentally read P. Sainath's Everybody Loves a Good Drought. And to me, it was an eye-opener. It was an eye-opener because a guy who was more exposed to Disney World and had ambition, greatest ambition was to visit SL World, was all of a sudden exposed to the atrocious conditions that our people were living in. From that time, I got involved in various activities, but never got a chance. So when I did get a chance, I took it. So I reached Malkangiri, and I'm supposed to work on crop failures and everything. So in the beginning, people tell me this is the place for the Maoist violence. This is pretty much like a Mecca pilgrimage for all the left students from JNU. So you will find more students from JNU than government officers in Malkangiri. So I go to village on the second day of my job. Then it's very typical scene from a P. Sainath documentary or a book. So there's a lot of starvation, people not having a lot of food. So I go and talk to them and ask, okay, why are you living here? And given the situations that you're currently in, that you do not have enough food, that your crops are failing, the land is not fertile because it's mining rich, you don't get a lot of output, so why don't you leave this place? The simple answer that I got was, this is my land, and if I have to die, this is the place. That had a very severe effect on me. Then I went and met the agriculture officer, and then we started giving some ideas. Why don't we work on changing the crops, because the average output in a coastal region is close to, let's say, 30 quintals on average per hectare. In a Malkangiri, it's 6. So you can understand the disparity. And most of the coastal areas have irrigation facilities, so you can actually get water is mostly available. So in Malkangiri, and nearly entire district does not have irrigation facilities, and it is undulating terrain, which means it is pretty much like a sine curve. Hence, the soil fertility rarely lasts. So here are the people who are probably subjected to most harshest of the conditions. And what is the government department doing? We suggested some villages. I asked him to come and visit the villages. He told me that he will come as long as it is on the road, because he doesn't want to get in. He wants a picture sitting in the middle of the land, and that should not be more than 200 meters. That pretty much talks about how the bureaucracy works. Then I went and spoke to some of the SCST department and said that there are a lot of poor people, and there's a chance that there'll be drought. We need to do something about it. Let's do something. And this senior bureaucrat was moved miraculously. This 8th miracle needs to be documented. So he said, we will do one thing. We will give them free seats, very good seats to these people. So he sent a notice saying that all the POP, which is the very beautiful way of poetic way of bureaucrats calling poorest of the poor, needs to be given free seats. Wonderful. Unfortunately, all the poor people are laborers. They don't have land. So they wanted to give a scheme wherein they're giving seeds to people who don't have land. So I went and told them, okay, this doesn't make sense. You need to have a diversified policies. And that's when the phrase that I've read in a book came to my mind: beating your head against a tapestry of bureaucracy. And it was very beautiful thing. Then we decided, okay, the agriculture, there's a lot of problems in agriculture. Let's do something about the alternate livelihoods. Let's go and do something about fisheries. And because MJNRGA, we can use a lot of money from MJNRGA. Then we went and spoke to the fisheries department. I said, okay, I think what we need to do is, Malkangiri is undulating terrain, so every village has small ponds. There are 2 or 3 ponds in every village. They are not very big, but they're very small. Probably it would be 300 yard ponds. So let's give incentives, let's build support systems for these people so that they can actually, you use these resources and hence can have food security, can make money, etc. They told me that, sorry, we have policies only for people who grow fisheries in more than 1 hectare. That is 2.5 acre. That is pretty much no one. So that's what exactly, when I went through all these experiences, I suddenly realized that the problem is not so much with policies. I think you heard a bureaucrat, you heard an activist, and the guy getting squeezed in between. So the thing is, there are many policies. There are a lot of money that is being spent. The question is, how do you spend it? The great Kaifi Azmi once lamentfully said that, अब ये तो वही बात हुई कि आप पहले कब्र खोदो फिर लाश ढूंढो. No? That means first dig a grave, then search for the body. So this is pretty much how our government policies are run. And that's when I decided that what I will do, as I will probably work as a medium, wherein I will build a resource centers which will work towards it. So that's what we started doing. Now Malkangiri being as popularly Maoist holiday destination did not help, because this region has certain very traumatic incidences. It's one of the probably among the 3 districts which always compete for attentions of Maoists are Bastar, Malkangiri and Dantewada. And often Malkangiri comes first or second. Quite successful for last 30 years. And there were a dam where I stay nearby, that is hardly 4 kilometers from my place. It's called Balimela Dam. All the people who are fighting about Seeleru power, that's where the water comes to Seeleru. So that dam was built in 1968. And when you try to reach the dam, you come across all these villages, very inhumanly named RSC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what RSC stands for is resettlement colonies. When these colonies actually got electricity in 2012, when they were displaced in 1965. So it doesn't really take a Karl Marx to incite them, especially when you go through the troubles on a day-to-day basis. And I used to work in this panchayat called Ralegada Panchayat. Now, if you want to reach that panchayat, you have to go in a commander. Now, believe me, this is more dangerous than Space Shuttle Atlantis. There's more chances that it will crash, because there are 50 people in a small commander. God knows how people have survived through that. Even I'm not sure. So you have to travel 25-30 kilometers. Then you cross this a very wide river, which is close to 1 kilometer, through a steamer boat. Then you walk 7 kilometers. Then there's another river that you cross on a dinghy boat. Then you walk for 3 days. Then you actually get into the panchayat. It's basically what rich people would call exploring themselves if they do it in Himalayas. But I'm doing for my job, so I have to also come up with Excel sheets. So no roads, no electricity, no network. Pretty much what a monk would want, but they are not monks. So as I mentioned, in terms of land fertility, soil, cropping patterns, all those problems persist. Low and mass starvation is a common thing there. I mean that's something you can find everywhere. Because the crop failures are more. If it doesn't rain for 5 days in a rainy season, not in winter season. In rainy season, there's a crop failure. If it rains more, there's a crop failure. If it rains less, it's a crop failure. It's just like Arnab, it's as the chances of having a very good crop is as much as Arnab Goswami making a sensible conversation. So pretty much zero. And what you do over there is, you go from village to village. We do our own surveys, and so that we can take the data back to government people. I realized in my brief journey that apparently government can only recognize people in forms of numbers. They can never understand people in terms of human beings. So I was in one of these villages, and we generally sleep there and we dance with them. It's a common in tribal areas. So I go to this village, I sit there, and as usual, they butcher a hen every time I'm there. I'm quite sure that entire species hates me to the core. So we had dance, we had stuff, everything. That was about 12th day of the young baby. So we celebrated. I said, I'll do my best. Whenever we go in, we carry medicines with us. In the morning, 4 o'clock, the baby started developing problems. We wanted to take him to hospital, but how will you go? It's night. The entire forest region is full of bears. It's definitely full of a lot of wild animals. It's not safe. You have to cross 12 streams, walk all the things that I mentioned today. Even okay, for a Adivasi, it will probably take half a day. What I would take 2 days or 3 days. But then you have to cross one river, then walk 7 kilometers, then walk another kilometers, then go 20 kilometers before you can find an elementary medical center. And the kid died. And what shocked me more than the death of the kid was the way people reacted to it, as if it's a natural thing. And that's a scary thing. And then back then I was very angry at government, that government is not working. Something needs to be done. Even for a brief moment, I felt like we need more left activism in this place so that something can be done there. Now, briefly after that, sometime later, we finally got one amazing sarpanch. This was the first Adivasi sarpanch I met, was active, wanted to do something to the people. Believe me, they are not very educated, but they would say, Bhaiya, मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ, आप मुझे बताइए. I said, okay, I'll take you to collector. I have contacts, we'll go till department if it needs be. This thing happened for some time. We were trying to get the voting cards, ID cards, etc. Because if you don't have ID cards, you don't exist, according to government. From where will you get the scheme? We tried to do that. And after some time, I realized that he's shot dead on the allegation that he's a police informer. Now, in the beginning, you can't trust this place because there's a perpetual war between BSF and Maoists. If the joke I often crack is, if you throw a stone in Malkangiri, it will fall on a BSF camp because every, say, 5 kilometers you have one. So after 4 months, the story started coming out. That guy was killed because there were caste differences between 3 tribes, and the one tribe actually gave the commission to their friends in the party to kill this fellow. And briefly after, like I think 4 months after this incident, in one of the villages where I used to work, the BSF gunned down 14 kids in a fake encounter. 14 kids in a fake encounter. It's 14 to 18. So then it's quite famous, and a lot of the cases still running in Supreme Court. So the question is, how do you work in these circumstances? One thing that has really taught me here, when working in Malkangiri, is how much we do not actually understand people. When I was growing up, I could actually know a lot of people, lower middle class people, what they were doing on a day-to-day basis, what their aspirations are, what their family problems are, how the husband is scolding wife, and how wife is reacting to it, the children. How many of you actually know what's happening in the lives of slum children? We don't. And that's the crazy part here. If, as a urban youth, if we can only relate to people, not in physical terms, if we can't relate to their daily problems, then we will never be actually understand the problems the others are facing. Somebody once suggested that the people should come and stay in villages for 1 month. I think I second that. Not because I think it will bring the change. That's not the thing. But you will actually know what their problems are, instead of talking in the air. One of my favorite writers was Albert Camus. He once famously said that man has been delivered in the hands of history by historians, and there is no solace in that. So unless and until we stop excessive abstraction, there's very little that we will be able to do. So I would actually wanted to show what I was doing, because we're trying to build a mobile apps that can actually connect people in the villages to the scientists. The data can flow. And what we actually achieved till now is that we could finally convince the collector and the administration, and we could actually get a policy for a fisherman, small-scale fishermen, for very small ponds. There are 1,000 fishermen right now who actually got the entire support system. Because in MG and RGA you can get a pond, but that is useless if you don't have fingerlings, if you don't have feed system, if you don't have training, if you don't have a skill support. There's an entire cycle that needs to be built. So I understand a lot of people are motivated by activism, but there are a lot of non-romantic things that you also need to do. Build systems around things. Make sure these things happen. Focus on what kind of feeds that can be supplied. Focus on how to build a seed systems around which you can actually ensure there can be crop diversification. That's the best way to combat climate change. And each and everything. Unless and until we focus on that, and we will not be able to focus on that unless we start interacting with people, unless we are emotionally connected to the struggles of each and every one of them. If we will not, we'll only be fighting our own battles. As somebody said, I think it's Batman, the vigilantes are someone who lost his own self-gratification. Let's not be that. And if you really want to do it, my suggestion is start interacting with people. The people whom really want to fight for. Understand their ambitions, and then go ahead. I would like to probably end with my favorite poet's words. It's by Sahir Ludhianvi. He says that, माना कि हमने ज़मीन को गुलजार न कर सके, कुछ खार कम कर दिए, गुजरे जिधर से हम.